Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hello, everybody. It's Tom Foster on the World of Marketing, and here we are. And this is really cool because I'm with one of my very best buds, Kevin Mottley of Richmond, Virginia, one of the best and most well-known and badass personal injury lawyers in the state, right?
Wow.
That focuses on traumatic brain injury and has done so for, 30 years?
No, now it's going on, I guess, actually with the TBI type work, it's about 10 years.
10 years.
So about the time that I'm
30 years.
30 years. I'm only 29 years old.
Right. Anyway, it's so great to have you here. And we're here at the studio. And you came all the way up from Richmond to Alexandria.
This is very impressive. We've done 2 of these before and never in such a fine location.
Yes,
So
and Kevin is, one of my very favorite people. And
you're mine.
And
so,
on the homepage of the FWM website, and you've lived there for years.
And you told me that like a month ago, and I said, "Really?" And so I looked it out, and I looked it up, and you're right. It's right there.
It's right, you.
Yeah,
You and me, and I think that was our second podcast, maybe.
Yeah, no, I think that was
the first one.
That was the first.
We did that at GLF.
It was done at the Great Legal Marketing Conference over at the Arlington Renaissance.
And I think both of us were pretty hungover.
I was. I had gone out in Georgetown the night before, and I also had a cold, so I was. I remember that I was not feeling very well that day.
Yeah, both of us were, and that was back in my drinking days.
Yeah,
I don't drink anymore.
Yeah, good for you.
19 months now.
That's good for you.
Yeah, thanks. Sober.
Yeah, that's. I'm doing dry January. If you've ever.
That's great.
I do that every year. Yep, and sometimes it goes even further.
That's great. Good for you, man.
Into February, and so
I'll check in with you.
Check in with
February, March.
Yeah, check in.
See how if you get revved up again.
Yeah, I have a birthday at the end of February, so
When's your birthday?
February 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chad's is February 18th.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I'll have to call him up.
Yeah.
Wish him happy birthday. A lot of people in my family, but just in general, have birthdays in February. I don't know why. And maybe
February 23rd. So you said
February 28th.
28th.
Yeah.
Oh, so the last day of February.
The last day of February. So that was.
And my father's is March 1st. That's fine.
Oh,
okay, so that's great. All right, February 28th, everybody. We're going to remember Kevin Mottley's birthday.
Yeah.
Noted.
That's been a big day. In fact, the next day after my birthday in 2009 is the day I started my law firm.
Wow.
So that was my birthday present to myself, was get to work, and start.
Good for you. And let's talk about that because that's what we're here for, is to talk about you and, what you've done, because you've just really done a fantastic job of being able to take these cases, get these cases, first of all, and bring them to a conclusion for your clients. You are a fantastic lawyer.
Well, thank you.
That is really the bottom, the end of what I wanted to say.
Well, thank
you. Let's just cut to the chase. He is a fantastic lawyer, and that's why he gets these great cases. Takes good care of his clients.
That's what it's all about. I appreciate that. And I, like in our firm, we, about 10 years ago, I decided to focus a lot of my practice like a laser beam just on representing people who've suffered a traumatic brain injury. Now, have I had other types of injury cases? Of course I have. It's now kind of drifted into catastrophic injury, actually, but still, most of my cases are in the traumatic brain injury area, and the reason.
And you and I have talked about this over the years. Focus.
Focus. It's hyper focused, and and there are weeks, months, maybe even a year here or there where you're like, is anybody out there? I mean, you know,
Sure.
you're doing you're doing marketing.
It's an accident that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like
I know it's not
there's inventory out there.
No, that's right. I mean, events happen, and you're hoping that when an event like that happens, and your perfect client, unfortunately, has been involved in it,
right?
They end up somehow finding you,
right?
And there's a connection there. And so you've got to, when you go into like a hyper focused niche area like that, you've got to have faith that if you build it, they will come. If you set out to focus on this, they will come. And in a lot of areas of the law, of course, they're going to come.
And you have to have credibility.
You have to have a lot of credibility.
And that's what you have in spades.
Well, we work hard at being known as a firm that when we get a case, we're all over it.
Yeah.
We're all over that case.
Right.
And so we just settled a case, resolved a case, a significant case in November, for example. I can tell you.
Can you talk about some of the cases that you've?
Well, we can talk about that one. Yeah. So that was our client was struck by a car being driven by an official of the city of Charlottesville, Virginia. While he was in a crosswalk, he was struck, and he was thrown about 30 feet down Market Street, right there in downtown Charlottesville, suffered a traumatic brain injury, suffered an injury to his pituitary gland, serious. So he had a lot of things happen to him as a result of this incident. So that case had been plugging along for years, and the attorney who had it, who's part of my network, really, actually went to law school with this attorney, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've got this case. Not sure how good of a case it is. There are a lot of challenges on the damages side. Would you be interested in teaming up with us?" That's the prototypical path that I have. Or is some attorney's got a case. Maybe things have already happened in the case. We've even had them come.
They got to call them pro.
Well, he called me and said, "Look, we need your eyes on this. I know you do traumatic brain injury. This is your thing."
Because it's a specialty.
Yeah, and more than that, he knows that when we take on a case, we're all over the case.
Right.
And so from the time I got that case, I can say we resolved it in November. The case came about a year earlier, but from probably about February, March of 2022 until November 2022, I was working on that case several days a week. Probably more,
primarily,
I mean, just so what you're getting when you get us is a,
you.
You do get me. You do get a fantastic team though. Ben Kyber, my associate, Danielle Angel, my paralegal, and Juliet Markowitz.
I know Ben. He's great.
Our intake
great
person. Guy. So you get the four of us. We're all over the case, and what we like to call our cases are bespoke cases. So I like nice suits. That's just something about me. So I'm a little bit of a clothes horse, I guess you could say. But you go to a fine tailor because you want someone paying attention to every thread.
Right. Exactly.
That's in your suit.
Obviously.
And like this guy. You obviously.
Right.
Anyway, and I refer to our cases as bespoke cases. We I'm not suggesting that some other attorney out there is not who's handling many cases every week is not a fantastic attorney. That's not the point. The point is this is different, and I believe that on the traumatic brain injury cases or any catastrophic injury case, they really do demand to get the value that is there for the client,
right?
Who is the person this is all about. This is one of the biggest things in their life ever.
Exactly.
They deserve a bespoke case. And so we sit down and we pay attention to every thread. There's a lot of strategy that goes into these cases that has developed over the years and is still developing. Every time I have one of these cases, and this one is no exception, we settled this case for $5 million in November of this year. As of now, it's definitely one of the top 10 results in the state of Virginia for this year, last year. So it's a great case.
Well done for your client.
Yeah, and we really.
So you hear that, guys? Everybody, if you are out there, right, struggling with a case, if you got a case, you're not sure,
right. That's my message our clients are obviously the folks who have this awful thing happen to them, and they've been involved in some sort of incident, and they have a personal injury claim. But really, our clients are also referring lawyers, and that's who I direct a lot of my message to. Is we want to be part of your team, and we want you to be part of our team, and we'll help you get a great result.
Why? Because you have such an attention to detail. That's something I've always admired about you, Kevin.
Well, I appreciate that, and I've been accused of being anal or whatever.
It's a beautiful thing. But it's great.
Yeah,
great quality to have is this attention to detail that you have,
and you've got to have that
in your profession.
We try to get better. Every case, we try to ratchet it up. As I was about to say a moment ago, after every case, this one, no exception, I sit down on maybe a Saturday morning when it's quiet, and I do a "What did I learn" memo.
It's so good.
And that's what it's called. It's called the "What did I learn" memorandum. And I sit down and I just do a bullet point of, okay, this happened in the case. Next time, do it this way. This happened in the case. Next time, do it this way. Hey, think about this as a great case theme next time around. Those sort of things.
Right.
And so the system that we've got for the brain injury cases just gets better. It gets better and it gets better. And that's and I think to really be good at something, you gotta hyper focus on it,
and you gotta make a good system. And
so anyway,
that's what you've done.
That's what we do. That's why we're different. And like I said, tons of great lawyers out there. I've worked with many.
And that's how you've grown your firm over the last 10 years, is because you've been getting great referrals from lots of lawyers that know you. You were very well known. Folks, this guy's the man. And from all over, right?
We do we do get calls from all over.
Yeah.
By virtue of our website, we get we get traumatic brain injury contacts from clients from all over the country. So we refer them out. California.
There you go. So that's how it works.
Yeah. Oregon, Louisiana. I just referred a nice case to an attorney in New Orleans, which if I were in Louisiana, I would love to handle that case. So it's
who'd you refer to?
Oh gosh, I think his name is Anderson.
Okay.
Anderson, Tom Anderson, perhaps.
You should always call me.
Yeah.
And ask me to refer.
Ask me.
Yeah.
Ask me. I should.
Because I know a guy.
Yeah, I've done that before.
I know a guy.
So anyway, that's one thing we get, are direct contacts from people who've been injured from around the country.
The website.
But what we really like are calls from other attorneys who say, hey, and again, the prototypical path is, hey, we've got this case, we've been working on it. We just had one come in last week that's just a fantastic case. It's already been litigated for a year and then non-suited by the lawyer who has been handling it. And they've refiled it now, and now there's a trial coming up in September, and now we're being brought in to, hey, let's finish this marathon with you guys, and so we're teaming up with this other firm. That's the typical path, and we love that. And
you have some specialty, don't you? Don't you have some specialty in federal court or something?
Well, federal court is, from my days as a big firm lawyer, was somewhere that I spent some time, and even since opening my firm in 2009, I've had several forays into federal court, and that's kind of bled over into the personal injury practice where I kind of swim against the stream a little bit.
Right. Like you do things that other lawyers won't do.
Yeah. And I actually love federal court. So here's the key.
That's what I love about you, bud, is that you do things that other lawyers won't do. You're like a renegade. You're kind of like, you just do stuff that other people won't.
Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad.
Right. Of course.
But
it reminds me of myself in my own business, but like that's how you are in the law.
Yeah, I'm a big trial and error person, and
I love it.
But no, on the federal court stuff or topic, you'll hear a lot of lawyers, personal injury lawyers, say, "Okay, well, if it's going to federal court, I'm not touching it." They don't do federal court. They don't like the speed of it. They don't like the rules. They don't like the summary judgment danger, which is there, all of which are real concerns. But
you've mastered that.
Well, if all of those concerns are taken away when you have a good case,
right? So
it's all about having a good case. If you've got a good case and you're ready to roll, federal court is fantastic. You're going to get a faster result. You're going to get possibly a better jury pool than where you may happen to be in state court. Not always, but possibly. And you're going to get a judge who has clerks who doesn't let defendants get away with all the stuff they try to get away with on discovery. Right. And if you've done your homework, you've got your experts lined up, so you can really put a defendant on their heels. So I love federal court. No problem with it if you have a good case. If you don't have a good case, and I've had those,
but
that's not fun. That's not fun at all.
That's true for everything, right?
That's true for everything.
I have a good case.
Yeah. So,
but that's like, so if now here's your guy. I mean, like, here's your guy. Like, you're like the guy to get if you need the warrior to go in there, federal court. If you don't want to do it, get Kevin to help you. Right.
I appreciate that.
That's how I look at it.
I appreciate it.
Because you got balls, my man. That's what I've always loved about you is like you're not afraid of anything. Like you'll go in and you'll take on a case.
Yeah.
The hardest case.
I've had some tough ones.
And put your own money up.
That's another thing to mention about these cases is the financing of the cases, which is, these are not inexpensive cases.
Right.
They, it's unusual, but the expenses in a case like this often drift into the six figures, well into the six figures, I would say. So, I think every case I've got in the door right now is no exception to that rule. I mean, it's just part of the landscape. But that case,
that's a lot to manage.
Yeah, it is a lot to manage. But
that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, that case and that client, in my view, they deserve to have that case developed into what it could be. And that only happens when you have somebody paying attention to every thread of the case,
exactly,
and financing it properly.
Right. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing, and that's you. Obviously, and you've done a fantastic job. And I've been in this, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a marketing guy, right? I build websites for lawyers.
Yeah.
I've known lawyers for 25 years and I've met thousands of lawyers and all kinds of different kinds of practices. And every now and then, a few of them really impress me. And you're one of them, Kevin.
Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
And you always do. You always have, like, when the first day I met you, I was like, wow, man, this guy's special. This guy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That was when kind of like you were just getting started. You're going out on your own.
And you were one of the first people with whom I spoke about, okay, what do I do?
Right.
How do I, that would have been 2012, maybe 2013. So, so I actually had been trying to run a law firm for several years before I made my way to like a GLM conference, met you, and, actually the first conversation we had was about, hey, I've got this idea about about brain injury. And at the time, I was an NFL players agent.
That's right.
I don't know if you remember that.
But right. No, tell the story.
Yeah, so I was I had a history before opening my own law firm of representing a few athletes, and we've talked about that story before. We don't need to do that. Yeah. Well,
okay, we can reference the old podcast.
You can reference the old podcast.
What's I forgot his name. What's his name again?
Well, several athletes, but Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson.
That's the Iverson story is the one I'm thinking about, of you driving the big limo.
Yeah,
smashing the limo.
Which I damaged.
Okay, if you want to hear the smashing the limo story, you got to check out the podcast.
That was crazy. But so I'd had this, connection with athletes and their agents and representatives back when I was at a former firm. And actually, Carmelo Anthony's lawyer said, "Hey, if you ever open your own firm, you should think about being a sports agent. You're really good at talking to the guys and stuff like that." So I did it. I became an NFL players agent, and I was horrible.
So great.
I was horrible at that. I was. Let me tell you, if anybody's watching this who's thinking about being an NFL players agent, call me. I'll talk to you. But it's not a job for a guy with 3 kids and a married guy with 3 kids. It's just not. And it's incredibly competitive. People say I'm in such and such an industry, and it's the most competitive industry. No, the most competitive industry or profession is being an NFL player. Just do the math. There's so many teams. Yes. There's so many guys on the team.
Right.
100% of them get injured within 3 years.
Yes.
The average career is 3.3 years, or at least it was when I was an agent. And that is the most competitive job in the world right there. From my perspective, it is. And an agent for those guys is not far behind. That's just a super competitive line of work. And so I can't remember how we got on this, but
me neither. And when you're saying that, it's funny because my son, Luke, my 12-year-old, wants to be a professional football player.
Just tell him. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how we got on this. We were talking about my first conversation with you. So at that point, which was
right when we first got started, and I was giving you accolades about how brilliant you are.
Well, 2012, it would have been like at a GLM conference, and during a break, I caught you having a cup of coffee, and I said, "Hey, so I'm an agent, and I'm thinking brain injury. Those kind of go together."
Right. And I was
because
who's this guy?
Yeah, the players get brain injuries.
I love this guy.
And I'm like, there's some kind of connect. I didn't know what I was talking about. But
and we met at the bar. We had drinks. Yeah. We're buds, man. We had a good time together.
Yeah, and I think that was very early in my thinking about the brain injury niche. I had thought about it years earlier.
And you didn't do it right away. We met a couple of times.
That's right.
We talked about it
That's right. Times. Yeah, and it started to kind of snowball from there. So, but that would have been the first time that you and I at least talked about that niche and how to develop that.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for trusting me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you trusted me.
Well, I became a client of yours that year.
You did. And you trusted me.
Yeah, I went with, and I think Ken Pierce.
Yep.
That was the first guy I
dealt
with.
And
I remember talking to him on the phone about, okay, the website is going to do this, and
it was a lot of money for you. And
you
trusted me, and you trusted the process.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay. And you're like, I want more brain injury cases. And I said, okay, well, this is how we got together.
Yeah.
And that's how we got started, and it worked.
Yeah, it did. And it takes time. And anybody who's listening to this, who's thinking about going into a niche, there's multiple paths, obviously. Thank goodness there are multiple paths and areas or niches that you can go into. But some niches, I'm going to tell you, there are two worlds to this. One is where most people go, which is not a bad path, which is go into an area where there's lots of inventory. There's lots of work.
Right.
And just
like personal injury.
Divorce,
family law.
Personal injury,
DUI.
Social Security disability.
So, right.
estate.
But there's also lots of competition.
Estate planning. That's one area. So as far as getting leads and quantity and that sort of thing, and
there's marketing for that, and there's a certain way to market.
Yeah, you're going to get traction there. You're going to get leads. It's going to work, and if you're good and if you keep at it, you're going to do great in that niche. That would be the message to those people. The smaller, I would say more. I don't know if it's a narrower path, but it's certainly a path that requires more patience, is to, niche on something very specific, like within personal injury, where there's lots of traumatic brain injury.
So I have another very great client and friend, Chris Keene.
Yeah.
Do you know Chris Keene?
He's out in San Francisco. Yeah. Child injuries, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Traumatic brain
injuries.
The shaken baby syndrome.
Yes.
He's the man.
Yeah.
And he's another guy I'm going to get on the podcast here soon. But he's been around even longer than you.
Yeah.
And same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Same kind of lawyer, very and very niche. And you're right. That there's not a big, thank God there's not a big inventory for it.
Right. That's true. I tell my friends all the time, they're like, what do you do for a living? Or I meet somebody at a party and they say, what do you do for a living? And I tell them, and I tell them, I hope you're never my client. Because
exactly. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to. So it's like, you got to look at it like there's not a lot of inventory.
Right.
For it. But the point is that for those cases that are out there, for those people that need you, that have had this terrible thing happen to them or a loved one, you want to be found. They need to find you. If they're in the state of Virginia, they need to find you,
or even not.
Right.
That's
right.
The thing I love the most about my job, and I never could have sat down at a seminar when I was 20 something and, foreseen this. But the thing that, I'll be blunt about it. The reason I got into the legal profession is I thought you could make a lot of money doing it.
Sure.
I was in my 20s. I had law school debt.
Lawyers make a lot of money.
The two things I thought.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. The only two things I knew about the legal profession before I went to law school was, okay, lawyers can make some money. And Perry Mason, that was a cool show. And so was LA Law. That was kind of that was my thinking.
I'm in. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way you do. When I started working with lawyers, I was really excited to work with lawyers.
Right. And so it's where I am now, 25 years later, it amazes me that I've found something. I think and I saw somebody, it was a popular TikTok or something going around on an Instagram story where there was a speaker. You may have seen it too. He's like a professor, and he was really saying whenever he was talking to a younger crowd, and he said, whenever you hear somebody saying you need to find your passion and then go after that and you'll be happy for the rest of your life. He said, that's a bunch of baloney. He said, you need to really find something specific and become the best at it. And he said, then you'll develop a passion for that. And that really hit a chord with me because I'm not going to say to what extent I really agree with that or not. I'm just saying it made sense to me. And because I do think people need to think hard about why they're here, what their purpose is, what their passion is, and have an intention to build their life towards that. I do believe that. But what he said was, for me, rang true, because what happened with me was, I hate to say this or admit it, but my lead punch when I was in my 20s thinking about my intentions going forward was I need to earn a living and make money and support myself. And those were my passions, if you could even call it that. That's how I got into this. But I'm so happy that now, where I am now, over 2 decades later, I've found that I really love the people that I'm helping. And at the end, and my team will tell you this, at the end of every case, my clients stay connected with me. We are friends for life. I drag your Jim Folliard, who does your videos. and mine too. I dragged, to give you an example, we resolved a case for a gentleman in Pennsylvania 2 years ago. And at the end of the case, months after it was over, I dragged Jim Folliard up to Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
And that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and we spent the day with that client and his wife and just shot some videos. But before Jim even got there, I was there a day earlier, going to their home, taking them out to dinner. I feel like,
because you've made a friendship.
I'm part of the family.
Because you made a relationship. Because how could you not when you're doing that?
I feel like I'm part of the family. They feel like I'm part of the family. They stay connected.
How long were you working with them?
I got that case in 2018. The case settled in 2021. So we had a 3-year relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
so
that's, you go through a lot with people. I don't think lawyers understand, particularly lawyers that don't have a lot of experience. They don't understand
that's a different kind. Well, that's a different kind of lawyer.
Yeah.
And law firm than a mill or get it done quick.
Yeah, I mean,
this is not a auto accident.
Yeah,
you are not a auto accident mill.
No, and there's a place for that, and and there are a lot of great lawyers doing it. But
totally, and we need that.
Yeah, and I send cases to those folks.
Right.
I mean, I refer a lot of cases out that.
But you're the guy.
Yeah.
For and in fact, a lot of those auto accidents have traumatic brain injuries involved.
They do, and that's
where you come in.
Yeah, that and some of the other conditions that are what we call comorbid with TBI, like post-traumatic stress disorder,
right?
Depression, and anxiety disorders, adjustment disorders. All of these things that are comorbid with TBI on a regular basis, those all of those are real niche areas to understand and bring value to the case. And by that, what I mean, develop witnesses, hire the right experts, be able to explain and illustrate to a jury what is PTSD, where does it reside in your brain? What's happening in the brain when a person has PTSD.
Right.
It's
fascinating.
We're so far beyond the thinking when I was a kid, which was PTSD. It's it's all in your head, or just get over it. It was kind of a condition that was looked upon that way. But I think after the Gulf War or wars we've had, and all of the research that's been done on not only traumatic brain injury but PTSD, we know so much more about that condition, for example.
Right.
And
in the validity
of it. Now it's a real injury that really changes people's lives for the worse. You really have to know how to develop that type of a case to bring full value for the client. So,
right.
Yeah. So
it's like details like that that set you apart, my man.
Well, and I enjoy that part of the case. I mean, or the cases. I
know.
It's just how are we going to bring this to life? That's kind of the question I'm always asking.
How many cases do you have right now going on?
Right now we have.
What do you usually average?
I like to have one case going to a resolution every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So every 3 months, ideally, I'll have a case either settling or going to a verdict.
That's your focus.
That was my goal 10 years ago. I talked about patience a moment ago. That was my goal 10 years ago. It's still my goal. Right now, that's where I am. So here I am, 10 years later, having gotten to that point. And it's been like this now for about 2 years. So it took me about 8 years to get to that point. But now I say I'd like to have one case going to resolution every quarter. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Sure.
Sometimes you've got 3 cases going to resolution in this quarter and nothing happening in these
right.
And that's never fun. And unfortunately, that's what my year this year is looking like. But that's okay. We've got we're going to get it all done. We've got let's see, probably I would say we've got 8 to 10 TBI cases in the firm at the moment. of varying stages of development,
Mm-hmm.
And of varying sizes. I would say and we've also got a wrongful death case in the firm it arises from an incident where the wife suffered a traumatic brain injury. The husband, unfortunately, was killed. So we've got that one as well. And they're in varying degrees of development, but going to trial or verdict this year, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 this year going to a resolution. But
we need more, as always.
Of course,
yeah.
We're
and, look. I mean, once again, if those of you out there see this and have such a case, this is the man. This guy knows what he's doing. And, it's an honor to have you as a client, Kevin. I so appreciate your trust in me and in this company, in FWM, that you've been here so long and that you've allowed us to help you grow. And it's worked, It's so great to see it. And thanks for being my friend, bro. Been great.
Same to you. And you've been a tremendous friend, and I am a very happy customer of Foster Web Marketing, client of Foster Web Marketing. I've enjoyed everybody. And you see, when you become an entrepreneur or a business owner, you start paying attention to other businesses who have good teams. And you're one of those that I've taken note of over the years. And I like to see businesses who have happy people working there, and there are a few others, a few others in town down in Richmond I know of that. Whenever I see that, I do tell my contact there that I'm taking notice of that, because people need to know that. Business owners need to know that they're doing a good job building a good team.
Thank you,
and so you've done that.
And I focus on that. I want to, that's part of our core focus is to, be good to each other.
Well, you've done well. I love your new digs.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you for moving into this wonderful space.
Love it down here in Old Town. And it only took you, like a normal commute to get here from Richmond.
Yeah.
And, like I told you, make this your Alexandria home.
Yeah.
Come on up here.
I'm all
anytime you want.
I took the train this morning, which whenever I have a business in Alexandria, I tend to take the train and just get some work done. The two ladies behind me were heading to New York, and they were planning all of the museums they were going to go to. So that was fun.
Great.
That was fun to listen to.
Yeah, right.
And
it's much better than driving up 95. Take the train.
You have so much more energy.
Exactly.
I mean, driving is so exhausting. But thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, everybody. Been Kevin Mottley, the man, the distinguished lawyer himself, my bro. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
On the World of Marketing, Tom Foster. We'll see you soon. Take care.